nuclear marshmallows.
Good old marshmallows.
Looks like a nuke went off on these things.
Hey everybody, coming at you from by the campfire, and we have behind the camera,
Heyo.
we have Nick. Now, last 2 years we've done our scary spooky Halloween edition, campfire stories, scary spooky Halloween stories. So anyway, this year we was going to have my brother on, but he's busy and he couldn't make it, so he told me the story and I'm going to try to remember it. And then I've got 2 stories of my own. And then Nick has a very interesting addition for the end of the video for this year. So, as the campfire starts dying down, I'm going to add wood to it to try to keep that spooky campfire glow to it. And this side of my face is nice and warm.
Oh,
Anyway, alright, and Nick is firing up some marshmallows, and I think I'm going to get me a stick and put a couple of marshmallows on it while I'm telling the first story. The first story is kind of a friendly ghost kind of story, kind of a happy, friendly thing. And then the second story is a little bit creepy. And then the third story will literally make your skin crawl. Now, I've been working on these. Huh?
He totally didn't steal it from The Conjuring.
No, didn't stay. It's actually worse than The Conjuring. Because these stories are real. Real. I don't tell made up stuff because that's what makes them really scary. So, alright, you ready to get into this?
Oh yeah.
Alright, I'm going to get my marshmallows and then we're going to get on with our first story. Our first story happened a long time ago. Now, I try to leave names out, especially if people are still alive. And,
If they're still alive, then the story's no fun.
well, no, the ghosts are not alive, but the people are. But anyway,
Okay.
alright. When I first... back in 1993, when I went to buy my first house, there was a real estate agent that we had used. We looked at a house, and then the real estate agent showed us the house, and we kind of liked her, and we're like, we want to look at more houses. And she's like, well, do you have a real estate agent? And we're like, no. And so she's like, I'll be your agent. So, okay. So she shows us all these houses. Well, she shows us this one old house one time, and I was kind of kidding around, and I said, is this place haunted? And she said, no. She said, if it was haunted, I would know it, because I grew up in a haunted house. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I'll tell you about it when we're in the car. So we got into her Jeep, and we were driving to the next location. And she was saying that when she was growing up, as far back as she could remember, there was a very small ghostly girl, and it looked like a real girl, but it was kind of like white, and it would like fade in and fade out. And I was like, wow, I was just blown away because I've never seen a ghost. So she was saying that this ghost was there, and it always appeared all the time. It would appear and then it would vanish, and it would appear, and it was like it was watching them. And so one day her little sister, she said her little sister's name was Emily, and Emily got really, really sick. And she got so sick that pretty much the mom stayed by her side tending to her. And then she said that her dad took a couple of days off of work and stayed with her. And the mom even made a little pallet cot type thing and slept in Emily's room until she got better. And it was weird that after that happened, they never saw the little ghost again. Never saw her again. So I said, well, that's weird. I said, and she said, yeah, but I think there's an explanation. She said that she was at Kmart, and she actually bumped into the woman that was the previous owner of the house. And she had said, hey, she said, was that place haunted when you lived there? And she said, haunted? No, it wasn't haunted. And it was just her and her husband. They didn't have kids. And so she thought that was weird. And so she said, no, it's not haunted. And so she went to explain to her about the ghost. And a funny thing, her jaw dropped. She couldn't believe it. And she said, wow, she said, this verifies the story I was told. And she said, what's that? She said, when we moved into the house, the person that sold this to us said, I want you to know I'm not going to sell you this house without telling you, but a little girl died in it. I'm like, really? And said, yeah. Said there was a little girl, and said that her dad was a captain of I think he said it was some kind of a boat that hauled cotton up and down the river, and so he was gone all the time. And the mom was a terrible mom. She didn't really keep up with the daughter much. And that the daughter got sick and couldn't hardly move, and she just went and laid in her bed and just laid in her bed. Nobody tended to her for a couple of days until she died. So, with that said, Nick, are you thinking what I'm thinking? It's almost like the little girl had closure. It was almost like the little girl ghost was watching over the other girls. And then when Emily got sick, it was like Emily was being taken care of. And it was almost like that was closure for her. And so she wound up disappearing. So that is ghost story number 1. Do you like that one, Nick?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty cool. Kind of a good ghost story. The second one's a little creepier though.
That one first story right there, that's kind of a story that I've heard in a lot of different cases of a spirit just watching over somebody.
Yeah, there are some good spirits.
Yeah. A lot of cases of that, actually.
Mm-hmm. Man, them are good. I didn't burn mine like you burnt yours.
Oh yeah, mine's as charred as the campfire, leftover campfire in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's delicious. Totally.
Now for the second story, you have to forgive me if I mess this up, because this is the one that happened to my brother. And I'm trying to remember everything he told me. And he told me, and I went over it in my mind, and then I called him and I talked to him about it. Oh, incidentally, my brother's been busy with and hadn't been on his YouTube channel in a while, but he's got another set of kittens, and he's going to be live streaming his kittens. So check him out. The link is on my community page if you like cats or kittens. Anyway, so my brother tells me, my brother used to work for a computer company in Atlanta. And he, let's see, where was that? Norcross. He lived in Norcross, but he worked in Atlanta. Anyway, did you hear that, Nick? It's a ghost behind us. Anyway, there was a guy that had transferred from Alexandria, Louisiana, to the Atlanta branch as a manager. And so they got to talking, and he was a pretty cool guy, and they were talking, and the subject came up of ghost and haunted houses. And so this is what Greg told my brother. Greg grew up, and I think it's either called, it was in Alexandria, and it was either called the Garden District or the Historic District, one or the other. Now this is a part that I can't remember, and I guess it's probably good that I don't pinpoint it, but it was either Jefferson Street or Jackson Street, one or the other that they lived on. But anyway, there was a large house that ever since he had been living there, the house was pretty much empty. But it was a big, huge, nice house, and he was always curious about the house. And there would be for sale signs in the yard off and on, here and there. Sometimes there would be, sometimes there wouldn't be. And so somebody on the school bus told Greg, said, hey, that house over there has a bowling alley in the basement. And he was like, wow. That's perfect. So that afternoon, Greg goes, and he goes up on the porch. He thinks it's okay because the house is for sale, you know. So he goes up on the porch and he looks in, and there's a little bit of furniture left in the house. And so he wiggles the door and it's locked. So he goes around to the backyard where there's like a, I don't know, it's not a deck, it's like a, what would you call that, Nick? Like a patio with a glassed-in room? Florida room, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's it.
Yeah, kind of like that. So anyway, he wiggles the door. So then he goes down these steps where the basement is, and he wiggles the door, and it's locked, and then all of a sudden the door opens. And so he's like, that's weird. But he thought, maybe I just dislodged it. I don't know. So he walks in, and sure enough, there it is. There is an actual bowling alley in the basement. And then he walks through, and then there's like some kind of a, like maybe like a billiard room or something, and I think there's like a sauna in it. Just, it's a real nice basement. So then he goes upstairs, and there's an incredible long wooden table in the dining area. And there's drapes in there, real long curtains from the ceiling down. It's like 12-foot ceilings. And he's just blowing his mind. He's just like, he's in awe. He's like, wow, this is wild. Well, as he walks out of the dining room and he walks into the foyer, he starts getting a real weird feeling. And it's just, he's looking around then, and he's weird. And so he goes up to where the steps go upstairs, and he reaches up and touches the banister. You know, the big round ball on the end of the handrail. You know what I'm talking about, Nick? Puts his hand on that ball and puts one foot on that front step. And said all of a sudden his whole body is just flushed with just evil and despair. And he said it's like, the way he described the feeling was like if you looked up, if you were standing in the road, looked up, and a car was coming at you fixing to kill you, like imminent death, or like a bear fixing to claw you. He said that's the feeling that just rushes through your body. And so he left. He left. He said, this place is evil. I have never felt evil like this. This is horrible.
He didn't get thrown down the stairs?
He only put one foot on one step and put his hand on the banister, the big ball at the end of the handrail.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it. That's it. That's like Nick caught his marshmallow on fire. Nick,
right.
Let me see that.
Nice and toasty.
Look, can you see that? Look at the bottom one. Here. Nick likes some crunchy. So anyway, he goes home. He's freaked out. He runs home and he locks himself in his room, and he's sitting there. Well, his older brother had moved out. Okay. And his older brother came to visit a couple of days later, and he told him, he said, hey, he said, I don't remember his older brother's name, but he told his brother, he said, hey man, he said, you know that big house down there, big giant house that's been empty forever, with the one with a red door? It had a red door on the front, painted red. He said, yeah. He said he stopped himself before he said it's haunted because he wanted to verify. So he told him, he said, I went in there and there was a bowling alley in the basement. And he said, really? And so he was just all happy and optimistic, and he wasn't anything along the lines of like, oh, that place is haunted. So they walk down there. They go down there. The door's still open. So he said, look at this. And they go in, bowling alley. Wow. His brother's smiling from ear to ear. Just, wow, this place is great. And so they're walking through, and they look at the dining room table after they leave the basement. Big, long dining room table with big chairs. There's a few pictures on the walls. He's just looking around, taking it in. They get into the foyer where the big chandelier is, and they're looking at it. And they're like, this is great. His brother was just in awe. He's like, man, this house is the nicest house on this block. So he tells his brother, he said, let's look upstairs. And so he backs away, and his brother reaches up, puts his hand on the handrail, puts one foot on, and he freezes. And he jumps down and takes off running, and he don't run. He's a big guy. And he said, this place is haunted. And he runs, and he runs, and he runs. And it's just, you know, they didn't see a ghost or anything, but I mean, it's just, they say it's just a feeling just flushed through him from head to toe. He explained the same feeling that Greg had felt. So Greg left, and then about 2 days later, Greg was in the front yard, and the real estate woman that lives next door to him, she was out there walking towards her car, and Greg went over and said, hey, said, that big house down the road there with the red door? And she said, yeah. He said, has that place always been for sale? And she said, she started laughing. She said, yeah, pretty much. She said, we can't sell the place. She said, it's been for sale as long as I've been a real estate agent. And she said, I think it's because that house has got some stuff going on. And he said, what do you mean some stuff going on? And she said, well, the editor of the newspaper in this town used to live in that house, and he committed suicide in the attic. So, interesting. So evidently that place is just, it's haunted now. So, anyway, that's the second story. It wasn't too bad. And like I said, the third story.
So, well, sounds like there's more of that story. I always said lingering spirits, open doorways.
Oh yeah, there's a
Sounds like-
spirit.
Sounds like something else has entered that house the soul of the newspaper editor. Just said.
Yeah.
Sounds like the soul of the newspaper editor is still in there. It's my unfinished business as far as why, whatever reason he took his life from. But
And
something
see,
else in that house now.
that area, I'm told that back during the Civil War time, on a Friday the 13th, they came in and burnt everything. So, I mean, and there's supposed to be a lot of ghosts there in Alexandria, but anyway, because it's an old town. But anyway, who knows? Maybe there was another ghost that was, how should I say? I don't know. Maybe protecting them from going upstairs. But anyway, that's the second story. So, we're going to move on to the third story that is going to literally make your skin crawl, because it made mine crawl. It still makes me crawl. I've known about this story for a long time, and I don't even like talking about it, but I'll do it for y'all this Halloween. Alright, we took a little break there for a minute. We're still roasting up some marshmallows here.
Well, he's roasting them, I'm burning them.
Yeah, Nick's burning his, I'm roasting mine. So, alright, I hope y'all are enjoying this so far. Now, when I first got married and first moved, now I'm not going to name the road, okay, because people don't need to go there. I'm not going to name the road, but I was living in this one house, alright, and I got to noticing all the houses on that road were small houses, except for one. One was a two-story house. Two-story, huge, giant porch, big house. I don't know the history of it. I don't know how old it is compared to the others. I just know it's a big house. And ever since I moved there, it was empty. And I never went over there. I didn't know who owned it. I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't go anywhere near it. So I lived there for a while, and I got to knowing some of the people that lived on the road. Well, one day we got a piece of mail in that said Chrysler Motor Corporation, and it was one digit off from my address, and it should have been down the road at this other woman's house. And I knew who she was. She was kind of like she was the oldest resident of the neighborhood. So I thought, well, I'm gonna walk this down here, and I thought that was interesting. She got a letter from Chrysler Motor Corporation. So I went up and I knocked on the door, and she came to the door. Old woman had like a, I don't know, what do you call it, the things that they crochet, a shawl maybe on her. And she had the glasses, horn rim glasses with the chain on them. And so I said, hey, Miss, I'm going to call her, I think her first name was Jewel, J-U-L-E, Jewel. So I'm just, Miss Jewel, hey, Miss Jewel. And I said, I got this letter in our mailbox, and it's supposed to go to you. And so I gave it to her, and I said, that's kind of weird. I said, you know, they sent it to me, and I was kind of curious. And she said, dear old Chrysler, she said, I just can't cash them checks fast enough. And I said, checks? She said, yeah. She said, me and my husband used to live in, I think she said Sterling Heights, Michigan. And her husband worked for Chrysler Motor Corporation, and so he got dividends. Well, he passed away, and then she moved down here with her, with where her daughter had moved to. So she was living here, so that's how that happened. So, you know, we got to chit-chatting, and she was telling me about living in Michigan and telling me about her husband. And, you know, she was just an interesting person, and talking about all the years he worked at Chrysler. He worked at Chrysler in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I mean, just during the heyday of the Industrial Revolution or something, I guess. But so anyway, I casually mentioned, I said, hey, I said, you know something? I said, you've been here longer than anybody. I said, what do you know about that big two-story house? And she went, oh, Lord. And I was like, that's weird. It was a complete change in tone. She said, if you got time, I'll tell you the story. She said, but you can't tell me I'm a liar. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't call you a liar. And so, because it's a pretty radical story. So she said, reach over there and get my tea and hand it to me. So she had her tea on the stove. I poured her tea, and she sat down. And she said, that is the Warlick house. And I said, Warlick? And she said, yeah, the family that lived there is Warlick. War, like going to war, and then lick, like a cow lick. So the Warlick family, that's known as the Warlick house. And she said what happened is, she said there was a family that lived there, and said that they started calling other residents over into their house and saying, come over here and look in this mirror. And they would come and look in the mirror, and the people would have a horrified look on their face. And they'd be like, yeah, it's a mirror. And they go look into the mirror. And they would look in the mirror, and they would look around, and they're like, they wouldn't see anything. And so they would leave, and then they called her over there one day, and they said, look into the mirror. And so they came over and looked in the mirror. There's a mirror in the hallway, mirrors in the bathroom, a big mirror right above the couch in the den. And they were just disgusted. And she said, what? She said, some of these other people told me that you've been asking people to come over here and look in the mirror. And what's up with that? And she said, well, she said, us family members that live in this house, every time we look into a mirror, there's a little boy in the reflection of the mirror staring at us. A little boy dressed in like clothes from the 20s or 30s. And she's like, wow. And so she got to where she went over there a couple of times and was looking in the mirror with them. And she never saw nothing. And they said, and they were like, you don't see him right there? There's a boy right there behind me. And then another time, there's a boy between us. You don't see him? And she'd reach over, and she could see her hand moving around, and I don't see nothing. And then the woman would be freaking out. She'd be like, you're touching him. And she thought she was crazy. So the story goes that this went on for a while, and they had contacted somebody. I don't know what you call them. I don't know if they were did you hear that, Nick? Coyotes.
Huh.
So anyway, they contacted a dude, and I don't know if he was a paranormal investigator or a psychic. I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but they contacted somebody one time, and they told them what was going on. And they said, really? They said, a little boy? And so they're like, okay. They said, I need to come check the place out. So they came and they investigated, and they looked around, and they checked it out. And they started talking to people and wanted to find out if any little boys had died in that house. And they didn't. And so they said, I'm going to come to the house and visit. And as soon as this psychic came to the house, just a horrible feeling. They said, this is bad. This is real bad. I don't even want to set foot in your house. It feels so bad. Because, you know, they could feel the spirits that was there. So they said, I'm not coming back without so-and-so. So they went and contacted somebody else. And I don't know who they were. I don't know I don't know if they were a shaman or a demonologist or a priest. I don't know what they were. But they told them, they said that anytime you have a entity like that, or a ghost that shows up in the mirror, said that they're hiding behind something, that's not their true reflection. That's not their true self. You got to use the double mirror method. And they're like, what? What is that? The double mirror method? And they said, whoever can see the ghost, they said, stand in front of the mirror, and then they said, take another mirror and shine the mirror back at them so that you can see. Because like, say, if you're standing here and you're looking in the mirror and you see the little ghost, then when you hold up the other mirror, whatever you see the reflection of is the real deal. And so they're like, okay. So they get another mirror and they take it off the wall and they walk in the bathroom. And this was the story. This is exactly how it went down. They held the mirror and they was looking in the bathroom mirror and they saw the little boy. And when they raised the mirror up, the little boy turned into a shiny black entity with huge nostrils, with fangs and horns. And the dad froze. He couldn't move. The mom passed out. The kids started screaming. The whole family just went into absolute terror. So evidently, they ran out of the house, and then they contacted the guy that told them about the mirror, and he said, yep, he said, that's what it is now. And he said, you can't go back to that house, he said, because he has revealed himself. And he explained, he said that there's a difference in ghosts and demons. And he said, you have a demon in your house, a demon entity. And they said that what they do is they disguise themselves as something innocent, like a child. And so he said this one was trying to lure you in to where you started trusting it and growing accustomed to it, and then it was going to move in for the kill. whatever that is. So he said, but you've seen it now. It's been revealed. You can't go back. So Miss Jewell said that the Warlick family moved, just left everything, and moved to Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, Fulton County. And she doesn't know who owns the house. She has no idea. And he never sold the house. I guess they didn't move their furniture out of it. They just left on the spot. Got as far away as they possibly could. And about a month ago, I was thinking about telling the story. About a month ago, I rode down that road, and that house is still there and still empty. Ain't that something? I'm going to have to get my light now. The fire's starting to die out. That's even creepier, ain't it, Nick? That's coming from the other side. Alright, the fire's starting to die down, so now I'm going to have to do this with my light. I have to play around for a minute. Woo! Is that creepy looking, Nick?
Yes.
Very creepy campfire vibes.
Oh, I just thought you were creepy.
I am a creepy kind of guy. Anyway, all right. So now, now that I've told the 3 stories, hopefully that third one scared you out of your skin. Nick, we're going to put a photograph at the end of the video for y'all to look at, and I'm not going to say anything about it, but Nick is going to say something about it. But I just want y'all to look at the photograph, and in the comment section, y'all just tell us what you see. Okay? So, Nick, you want to tell the story?
Yeah. Okay, so, coming back from one of our excursions, let's see, the video where we were in the pine forest recently. Yeah.
Yeah, pine forest. Okay. We did the shelves and the sawhorses.
Ah, yeah, the shelves. Those are... okay, so on the way back from that video, we were going back down the trail, back towards the road, and it was getting kind of late. Sun was shining through the trees. We hadn't ever really been that way. Well, I started taking some photos along the way, and at one point I stopped, and I thought this was a really beautiful scene. So I took a couple photos of this, and then I took a panorama. Well, in the panorama, all the way to the left, you could see down the trail in that shot. Now, yeah, it has to be zoomed in very far to see it. Will you include the zoomed in version?
I can't zoom it in.
Okay. Well, zoomed very far in, you can actually... I'm just going to go ahead and say, you can actually see a figure. We had not seen anybody throughout the woods out there. There was nobody around us, no noise, nothing. We had been all the way down that trail, nothing. And yet, all the way zoomed in on this photo, there's this figure at the very end of the trail, just standing there looking straight up. And the stranger thing is, I can't tell what's on this figure's face. It's humanoid, but I can't tell what's on its face.
I kind of hate to give my opinion, but I'll give a hint. This thing looks like there's something on its back. Oh. Anyway, I'm going to put it at the end of the video, and I'm going to zoom in just enough so you can kind of make it out. But if I zoom in too much, it gets so blurry that I'm going to put it at the zoom part where I think you can kind of make it out. All right. Sound good?
I mean, this is on a really good camera that the photo zooms extremely far in, long distance off, but it's clear enough zoomed all the way in that you can look near it and you can see, okay, those are trees, that's the ground, those are, I mean, those are the leaves, that's the trail. You can, I don't know, you can't really see the bend in the trail, but you can distinctively see a figure standing right there in the open.
It's something.
Looking straight up.
It is something. We're going to put it up on the end of the video. So that's it for our 2023 scary campfire stories. Campfire seemed to have lasted just long enough for 3 stories, which is amazing because now we're on a flashlight. It probably looks horrible. And it completely died down. It got completely, totally black a minute ago, which was terrible. So, anyway. Anything you want to add, Nick?
See what y'all think about the photo. I'm not sure how zoomed in the photo will be on the video here, but if you can make out the figure, or you can screenshot and zoom in even further from the video, post in the comment section what you think this figure is, and if you can see all the way to its head, I'm curious as what's on its face. I've looked at this photo multiple times and I've been trying to figure that out. It's some sort of mask. I get that. But
we don't know. We do not know. So, yeah, y'all take a look and have a happy Halloween. Get out and enjoy life. Camp more. We'll be right back to bushcraft, camping, survival in the next video. We feel like once a year we can do the spooky, scary campfire thing.
Oh yeah. Hopefully next year things will be full swing again.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick will be on the same shift as me, hopefully, because we're working different shifts, so we don't get to spend a lot of time together anymore. Anyway, take it easy, enjoy life, spend time with your family, watch out for ghosts, and we shall see you in the next one.
Spook you later.